We'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of the call.
Dear Supervisor, please be advised that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors will meet at 7 p.m. on February 22nd, 2021 in the County Boardroom. All County Board members' claims are due in the County Clerk's office by noon on February 5th, 2021, so they can be prepared for Audit Committee approval. Sincerely, Paul Severson, County Clerk.
Roll call.
Rick Nimitz. Here. Douglas Winters. Here. Sally Miller.
Here.
Richard Seisha.
Here.
Joe Feltes.
Here.
George Brandt.
Here.
Beth Killian.
Here. Oh, what was that? It turned on awful loud. It scared me.
Randy Tullifson.
Here.
Michelle Haynes.
Here.
John Austin.
Here.
Chuck Wallach.
Yes.
Tim Zeglin.
Here.
Dan Schreiner.
Here.
Jeannie Nutter.
Here.
Kurt Skoyen.
Here.
Ron Johnson.
Here.
16 present.
Oops.
Okay. I'll certify the open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting and notification. We have a 11-item agenda with some subtitles. Looking for approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Brandt, seconded by Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Being none, approved.
Oh, Michelle is on there.
Yep. Approval
Yay.
of the January 2021 session minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Feltes, seconded by Winters. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carry.
There wasn't any questions. Go ahead.
I did.
Give us time.
Next item on the agenda is appoint a district rep from District 14 to replace Mike Nelson. We had 8 applicants. One got in a little too late. 2 dropped out. We interviewed 5 and picked Kellen Nelson, who is Mike Nelson's son. And he's here. Would you like to introduce yourself? I did leave a little brochure that he handed me at resume, so everybody should have got a copy of his resume, but I'll just say a few words. Yeah.
Yep.
Is this supposed to be red? Yep. Okay, well, I may be younger than everybody, but I'm not that much better in technology, apparently.
You can actually take your mask
Mask
off
off?
for talking.
Yeah, that would be helpful too, probably. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to try and work with you guys and represent my district. Been a lifelong resident, farmed with my family since, well, forever. And still currently farming with my brothers and my mom and dad. And I also operate a seed business in the town of Hale as well, and travel throughout the county for that. So involved with the Trempealeau County Fair and several other volunteer things, but excited to be involved here.
Okay. Is there a second to my nomination?
I'll second.
Seconded by Nutter. Do we have to do a roll call vote?
Sure.
Okay, why don't you do a roll call vote?
Okay. Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Kurt Skoyen.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Rick Nimitz.
Yes.
Douglas Winters.
Yes.
Sally Miller.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Joe Feltes.
Yes.
George Brandt.
Yes.
Beth Killian.
Yes.
Randy Tullifson.
Yes.
Michelle Haynes.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Chuck Wallach.
Yes.
Tim Zeglin.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
16-0.
He could have voted for himself, but
He wasn't.
welcome aboard.
Now, do you want to stand up?
He's a big guy.
He's got to get sworn in
Yeah.
yet. So raise your right hand like this. Your other, no, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Callan Nelson,
having been appointed to the office of,
having been appointed to the office of District 14 Supervisor,
very good, you've gone farther than me, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of said office to the best of my ability.
of said office to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I'll have you sign this afterwards, okay? Well, I haven't got a new plaque made, but I got a cardboard one for him.
Could have used the old one, it still had the same name.
I gave it to Mike.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's good. Okay, quarterly appearances. Sheriff's Office. Brett Flemington's here.
Good evening. First of all, I have to apologize that I was not ready for this meeting in January. That would have been my normally night for the quarterly, and by the time I was that I remembered that I was supposed to be here, it was too late for me to get my report together. So thank you for letting me come here in February, and I'll be back in April, back on schedule again. So just give you some numbers as to what has gone on in the Sheriff's Office for the months of October, November, and December 2020. In that time period, we answered 3,402 calls for service, and that those numbers include anything that a sheriff's deputy does, whether it be paper service or open an information case for future investigation, all the way up to burglaries, thefts, everything. That encompasses any kind of call that comes into our dispatch center that a deputy is dispatched to. Of those numbers, there were 43 new drug abuse cases taken out in those 3 months, 32 simple assaults. And simple assault is anything from just somebody screaming at somebody all the way up to an actual physical assault that is not aggravated. If you push somebody and they fall down, that would fall into that category. So we took 32 simple assault complaints. 9 burglaries in those 3 months, 27 thefts, and 4 recalls of stolen motor vehicles. Those are treated separately from thefts. Some traffic data. So for the 3-month period, we were dispatched to 253 crashes. 193 of them, I'm going to take that back. We received 253 calls of crashes. 193 of those were deer crashes. We do not respond to deer crashes unless there's injury or road blockage, though. So we didn't respond to all 193, but a certain amount we did. We responded to 50 property damage crashes, 9 injury crashes, and in December we had our 5th fatal crash that resulted in our 6th fatality for the year. As far as traffic enforcement goes, in that 3-month period, 128 traffic citations were issued, 21 non-traffic citations were issued, and those are for county ordinance violations that have adopted state laws. And there were 229 traffic warnings issued in that same time period. The Sheriff's Office investigated 5 Chapter 51 incidents, mental health Chapter 51 incidents, and those are that required a deputy to investigate. That does not include the police departments. If a Chapter 51 call comes in for a local police department, they handle their own. And hence the next number, in that 3-month period, we were responsible for 14 Chapter 51 related transports. And as far as the jail goes in that 3-month period, just to give you a little perspective, today numbers, we have 33 total in custody. 9 are contracted out of county. In Clark County, they're the only ones accepting our inmates right now for overflow. There are 5 on electronic monitoring, and 1 is in another facility. It's non-contracted. It's a mental health evaluation type of thing, and they're in another facility waiting for that. So we have total in our jail at this time. For the 3-month period in October, November, December, October, our average daily population was 33. In November, 34, and in December, 36. Our out-of-county populations in October and November were 10 each, and then 14 in December. So the trend is that things are increasing again. One thing, or a couple things to note, that in that 3-month period, we had 11 inmates that were COVID symptomatic and were taken over to be tested. Had to go through isolation procedures again. We did have one test positive in November. In that 3-month period, October 62, November 46, and December 39, those were COVID medical isolation days that inmates were subject to. Our inmates, when they're brought into our jail for the first time, they are isolated for 14 days. Because of our lack of ability to isolate everybody when our numbers increase, if somebody new comes in and we have to put them in with another inmate who's already started their isolation, that isolation has to start over again for that inmate. So again, November or October, there was 62 isolation inmates, 46 in November and 39 in December. Significant number when we have the ability to isolate and segregate 7, really. So a lot of them are spending some time together. Drug withdrawals in our jail in October we had 6, November we had 6, and December we had 4. Alcohol withdrawals, 1 in October, 1 in November, and 3 in December. Serious medical issues in the jail, 10 in October, 8 in November, and 6 in December. Keep in mind, we only have about 2/3 of the inmates we normally have because of COVID. And then serious mental health issues is an alarming number, 11 in October, 14 in November, and 5 in December, because they are very staff-intensive inmates. A lot of times it's 15-minute cell checks that we have to actually go back and do a face-to-face cell check on that person. A lot of times it is that person has to be alone in a cell block. They cannot be with anybody else, and it's draining on the staff up there. They're banging on the doors. They're hammering seats into bars up there. It gets very loud and very distractive. Not only is that problematic for other inmates, it's problematic for our staff. Very labor intensive, and we have a lot of that going on up there right now. So that's just a snapshot of what's going on up in the jail. Is there any specific questions about the jail? I just have 1 or 2 other things here. So
What happens if one of these inmates was probably due to get out in 2 days and you brought somebody in with COVID? He's stuck in jail for another 14 days on account of that, or?
No, he gets out on the release time, but they're instructed about isolation and quarantine instructions once they're released. And I say that confidently that that's the process that's in place between my jail administration and our health department. So we would not be able to hold them an additional amount of time just because they have not sat the isolation period, but they're given instructions on how to continue to do that once they're released. The only other thing I want to mention here, I guess, is in December we took delivery of our body scanner, finally. However, we still are not able to use it due to state regulations that we have to get reports in with filed to Madison, and the company that has sold us the machine is working with us on that. We're pretty confident we're going to be using it here shortly. So, and then annual report is complete, has not been reviewed, but that'll be presented at the April meeting. So that's what I prepared for tonight. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions of the sheriff?
This is Supervisor Miller. Brett, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we still having an issue with the the Department of Correction not taking prisoners who have been sentenced to prison, and where are they going if they're sentenced to prison?
So a little history on that is back in early 2020, COVID forced the prisons, the Department of Corrections, to stop taking new inmates. And counties were burdened with those inmates, and the normal and usual period is 10 days from a time a person is sentenced to prison to the time they actually are brought to prison. So those first 10 days, there's no charge for them sitting in our facility. Anything over 10 days, we bill the Department of Corrections, and they subsequently reimbursed us. Starting February 1st, then as the year went on, they started taking inmates, and it got to be where we didn't have any waiting anymore. Just in recent months now, they have stopped taking inmates again, and we were informed that starting February 1st, they will no longer reimburse us for those inmates that we have to keep here as well. I did have a phone conversation with DOC Secretary Carr today, and he did have some promising news that the legislative body has taken it up and are looking at putting more money back into that to resume reimbursement. They encouraged us to continue to submit our bills, even if we don't think we're going to get it. They asked us to continue to submit the bills. So,
do we know if we'll be able to then submit this for reimbursement from FEMA or COVID relief, since it is COVID related?
that would be speculative. I would think that it would qualify if we did not get reimbursement from FEMA, but again, or from DOC, but I guess we'd have to hear that from our grant writer probably, and that could take a few days to get an answer on that. So Secretary Carr seemed confident today that the money would be put there, so it might be a little wise to wait a little bit yet. So I think
Thank you.
I think FEMA submissions have been extended through June, so we do have a little time on that. September now, so we do have time to figure that out.
Thank you.
No other questions? Take,
I just
Oh.
have a quick, 6 fatalities seems kind of high, is that high?
Yep, without doing the math,
Okay,
I would
got a
say,
number.
just based on my experience, an average would be 2 to 3. And usually 2 to 3 crashes. Multiple fatalities in a crash is fairly rare.
I don't have the
This year we
numbers. She's
had
gotta
one
push her
crash
own
with 2
button. I can
fatalities,
shut her off.
hence the 5 and 6. It is high. And last year, prior to the road construction on 93, we were working with the State Patrol and our highway department to get some marks painted out on the road and do some extra enforcement. So that kind of went by the wayside when the highway project started. That's done. We are now back on track, and we are going to be doing that this spring once the weather straightens up and we can actually do some painting on the roads. The south, from Arcadia south, is going to be redone this summer, so we won't have that type of opportunity down there. But for sure in the north, and the one concerning factor in those crashes this year is the high number of impairment, whether it be drugs or alcohol. So speed usually goes side and side with those. So we'll be looking for speed and impairment during those events. So
okay. There's no further questions. Thank you, Brett.
yeah, thank you.
Health Department, update. Barb Bossack? Barsack?
Don't forget when you talk to push the button.
Yeah, I can turn you off, but I can't turn you on. Unfortunate.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
You can bring that down a little bit.
sure I'm not gonna break it?
Not that way.
just don't pull it off.
Okay. Okay, I'm here tonight because I was asked by one of the members of the Board of Health to give you a little bit of an overview of what the Health Department does. The last time I was before you, it was kind of a tough night for me. I will try not to talk, well, I'm definitely going to talk longer than I did before, at our last meeting, but anyways, we'll start out by what does the Health Department do? The mission of the Health Department is to promote and improve the quality of life and health of all people in Trempealeau County through community assessment and surveillance, disaster planning, and disease prevention and health promotion in the areas of nursing, environmental health, and nutrition. So we have 3 kind of prongs. We have a staff of 9 employees. 2 are public health nurses, 2 are environmental, one's a sanitarian and one's working on it. A health educator, we have 2 WIC staff right now, a financial manager, and me, the Director of Health Officer. In addition to that, since we're rather busy up there, we work and have contracts with multiple interpreters, a WIC nutritionist, 2 dental associates which are involved in doing fluorides in the schools, a breastfeeding peer counselor, 6 contract tracers for COVID, and 7 nurses that we have on contract right now to help with a variety of things, including tracing, testing, and vaccinations. So why do we do what we do? Most of what we do is controlled by a state statute. The big one that controls a lot is DHS 140, which is required services. General services that are required are surveillance and investigation, communicable disease control, health promotion. Under health surveillance, right now we are finishing up the Compass Now. It is we're in partnership with United Way of La Crosse. It's a evaluation that's done every 3 years since 2012. It's the last time I was involved, first time I was involved in it. The preliminary data is out. Anyone who would like to have a copy of it, just send me an email. We did have a meeting last week of community partners, stakeholders, to talk about what was important and to rate what they thought was the most important things for us to do. We also have to maintain and restore programs regarding emerging health issues. We have to conduct timely investigations of health problems and environmental public health hazards in coordination with other government agencies and stakeholders. I'm trying to skip down a bunch of these, but I could talk for the next 2 hours of all the things that the state statutes require us to do. Under communicable disease control, if we just pick on DHS 144, which is different than our 140, by the way, we get evaluated every 5 years on our 140 performance to decide what level of health department we are. Either level 1, which is only requiring the state mandated, level 2, which is what we are, who has all of the required items plus a bunch more, and state 3, which are really level 3, which is really the big guys, the Eau Claires, La Crosses. Anyways, if you pick on then DHS 144, and that relates to the immunization of students. We provide programs for vaccine for children, which are free vaccines for children who are uninsured. We also have DHS 145, which requires us to relating to the prevention, monitoring, and conducting of epidemiological investigations and control of community diseases and outbreaks. In an average year, and last year was not an average year, we investigate approximately 500 disease investigations. We're also required to improve public recognition of communicable diseases and to facilitate community-based initiatives to prevent communicable diseases. We are also involved in non-communicable diseases, which are chronic diseases. We have 2 staff members that are certified in Stanford University's evidence-based workshops. One is called Healthy Living with Diabetes. The other one is called Living Well with Chronic Conditions. They're both 6-week workshops. They meet 2.5 hours once a week for 6 weeks. And the evidence indicates that they do improve the health of those who are participating in it. We also have 1 staff member who has been trained in the chronic pain program. In trying to improve the health and the safety of our people in our community, we have 2 programs. One is a safe sleep program, where we are able to dispense education and sometimes portable cribs to low-income families. And the other one is a car seat program, and that's for, again, providing education and dispensing car seats to low-income families. We are members of the Safe Kids Coalition, which is a source of some of the funding. We've also had some community members who have been very generous at giving us money towards those projects. We're also required to participate in emergency preparedness and response. Boy, do we have practice at that this year. We're participating in public health emergency preparedness exercises. We have grants that help support the program, and that we are required to follow some individual line items within the grants. Generally, we communicate and coordinate with healthcare providers, emergency service providers, and other agencies and organizations that respond to disasters, outbreaks, or emergencies. And we are required to promote health, develop and implement interventions, policies, and systems to promote practices that support positive health outcomes and resilient communities. We have Chapter DHS 146, which involves vaccine preventable diseases, and it requires the health department to purchase and distribute vaccines which will prevent communicable diseases. As I said, we're a member of the VFC program, where we are able to provide vaccines free of charge to uninsured children. And for adults, we also carry flu shots, Tdap, and hepatitis B. We have Chapter 1, DHS 144, which is the immunization of students, which we don't get any money for, but we are required to monitor the schools to make sure that all the students in the schools meet the minimum vaccine requirements. The schools are required to provide a report to us, I don't remember how many days after the beginning of the school year, saying that all their students are protected. DHS 145, basically it's a state setting up their surveillance system and then delegating it to us here at the local level to do it. Chapter 252 seems to where I managed to irritate people the last time I was up here. Local health officers may do what is reasonable and necessary for the prevention and suppression of disease. We may forbid public gatherings when deemed necessary to control outbreaks or epidemics, and shall advise the department is the state health department, of the measures that we took. If local authorities fail to enforce the communicable disease statutes and rules, the department, again referring to the State Department, shall take charge, and expenses thus incurred will be paid by the county or municipality to the State Department. It's generally expected that any actions that we take are the least invasive and burdensome possible to achieve that desired outcome. Our second group is environmental health. Basically, they define environmental health as the assessment, management, control, and prevention of environmental factors that may adversely affect the health, comfort, safety, or well-being of individuals. And human health hazards, which is a substance, activity, or condition that is known to have potential or cause acute or chronic health issues. Again, the local health department is responsible for the local enforcement of those. Other things that we do towards environmental health is we have a contract with the DNR to do TNC wells, which are transit non-community wells. It's well testing to make sure that when you go to church and you over at the water fountain, that water is safe to drink. We also have agreements with DATCAP, which provides for inspections of restaurants, pools, schools, bed and breakfasts, tattoo parlors, and other businesses to assure that the businesses practice safe procedures. We also work with La Crosse County on special well projects. They're usually done in 5-year increments. We just finished one on arsenic, where we were able to see that some areas in the southern part of our county had more than desirable arsenic in their private wells. We're currently working on the next 5 years one, so I can't tell you what it's going to be yet. We also have to follow up and enforce animal exposure regulations, and that's per Chapter 195 in their rabies control program. We provide a lot of public education on a variety of subjects, including blood testing for children, which we are able to do, and follow-up education and environmental testing for those children that test high with blood. Our third prong that we do up there is nutrition. We encompass the WIC, Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, which provides food supplements to low-income families. The nursing staff also provides pregnancy tests for applicants to the program. And this program is not just a one-dimensional program. It includes fit families to encourage physical activity, breastfeeding peer counseling to encourage breastfeeding infants. And we know that mother's milk is absolutely the best source of nutrition for children, or for infants, and farmer market promotion for fresh food from local sources. We have been working with the WIC program for the last couple of years, sharing and both billing and staff, and Kayla here will talk a little bit about that later. She's further down in the agenda. We also provide things for support that the state requires us to do, but isn't exactly a law. And that's basically the Healthy Wisconsin priority areas for 2020 to 2030. They are alcohol, reducing heavy and binge drinking, nutrition and physical activity, opioids, suicide prevention, tobacco, which is, by the way, the leading cause of preventable death in Wisconsin. And we're partnered with the 7 Cs Tobacco Coalition. There are 7 counties that are working together on projects. And the last one is ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And those can have a powerful impact on your health for the rest of your life. We also have provided educational opportunities for students in nursing, public health, and nutrition programs to get some real-world experience out here to augment their book learning in school. I just finished it up because I'm tired of listening to me, so you must be tired of listening to me. The Trempealeau County Health Department has been serving the residents of the county since 1920. We planned to celebrate our 100th birthday last summer with a special community outreach, but were unable to do so because it would increase the risk of transmitting COVID. So, this year we will continue our 101st year of service to Trempealeau County. And I'm done.
Thank you. Any questions of Barb?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Not really a question. Barb, when you were here last at the December meeting, the board unanimously congratulated you on achieving Level 2 certification. And the reason for that, achieving that Level 2 certification, was that long list of services that the health department provides that you've just read through. Unfortunately, that congratulations occurred very late in the evening and you weren't present. So I'd just like to remind the board that we just recognize that achievement again, and this time do it personally. So we can say thank you, congratulations. I was on the health committee for 4 years, 6 years, I've forgotten, but I know through all that period, you and your predecessor were working towards that Level 2 certification. So it's a very significant achievement. So congratulations again.
Well, thank you. I can't take the credit. I have an absolute fabulous team up there. And each and every one of them are responsible for everything that we do, all the good things that we do. But thank you for your kind words.
You're welcome. Okay. Under appearances, item C, Kurt Berner of Samuel's Group, and I don't know, have you have anybody with you or just you?
Nope, Vance is here too.
Oh,
I brought a new face with me tonight.
Okay.
We're going to do our best not to spend a lot of time here. I do want to introduce to the board here an ODIP program, but I'll do that at the end of the discussion here. I do want to give you all an update on progress that's been made since the last time I presented to you. So Venture and their design team is well into the design development phase. So we went through schematic design. Now we're into design development, and then we're going to get into construction documents before we get the project ready to put out to bid. But we're getting into the weeds in regards to mechanical, electrical design, security electronics, those sorts of things. So we've had multiple meetings with the departments to be able to move that along. We also have an asbestos survey that's going to be taking place on the property across the street. We would like to move in the direction to have that building demolished across the street here in March, pending approval from the board with bids. But what the process is going to happen with that is that asbestos survey will come back. We'll put together bid documents, get that out to contractors for bids. Once those bids come back, we'll bring you a recommendation as to an award to a contractor to do the demolition, and then we'll proceed with that work. And I'd like to target that sometime in March because we are looking for an early bid package for the footings, foundations, site utility work, and the structural package for the building, for the Justice Center to be prepared sometime in April, and potentially bidding late April and starting in early May. So that's the timing, and we need to get the structure out of there so we can uncover any potential items that are there. We are looking at proposed 24-month duration for the Justice Center construction, and what you're going to see on a line item after our presentation is your authorizing resolution for bonding, and you're going to see a different number there than the $40 million that we were talking about with the Justice Center. I wanted to bring you up to speed on what's happening with that. Last month when I was here, we talked about the renovation of the existing structure. Since that board meeting, we've met with departments, and we've got a pretty good handle on the needs for each one of the departments that are going to stay on the campus or move onto the campus. ADRC is the one that's coming across the road. And there's multiple options that can be done in regards to where departments go, if they stay, what the level of renovation needs to be done. But there are a few departments that have a need for space, that they've kind of outgrown the location and where they're at. And a lot of our discussions with them have suggested that they need to either move or expand from their space. So what we have done is we've put together a not to exceed number for that renovation work. And that's why you see the $43.5 million there. We're targeting about a $3 million, $2.5 to $3 million budget for that renovation, and it's a not to exceed. And what we plan to do is to finalize the due diligence with all of these departments, and then put together a couple of floor plans that we would bring back to committee, and then obviously to the board here to make some decisions on where these departments may want to be and the budget associated with them. So the not to exceed number is a budget that we're going to work within as we go through the balance of that design for the renovation. But the $40 million is still what we're targeting for the Justice Center. The $3 million, $2.5 to $3 million is what we're looking at for the renovation on the existing building. So when you see that number and when Brian does his presentation, that way you don't have a question in regards to where the cost is coming from. It's a not to exceed and an authorizing resolution. I'll let Brian explain that of how that approach is being done there. So any questions on that brief update before I introduce ODIP to all of you? And that's an acronym. It's not a funny word. So any questions on the progress?
Mr. Chairman? Kurt, is Brian, I do have some questions about the pre-sale report. Is Brian going to talk right now, or is he going to talk after?
After me.
Right after you?
Yep.
It would probably be better if we did it that way.
Yep.
Yes, I agree.
Correct. All right, any other questions on that before we get into ODIP? All right, so Vance and I are going to do our best to keep this brief. We, I think, bored the Exec and Finance Committee the other day because we probably got into too much detail, but I had brought Vance Forrest from County Mutual here to the Exec and Finance, and I kind of dropped it on them last minute, and I explained to them what this program is. It's an ODIP program. It's Owner Direct Insurance Program. And we've done it on multiple projects, large county projects in regards to a workers' comp owner direct insurance program. Reason that I'm bringing it to you is that it's an opportunity for the county to not take on any additional risk, but potentially to get some kickback or dividends based on a safe workplace and a safe work site. And we've done it effectively across the state with some sizable returns to some counties. Vance is going to explain it into more detail, but I'm going to kind of summarize that. What we do is we put together bid documents in the spec section that goes out to all of the bidders that are going to be bidding on the project to explain to them that the county is enrolled or involved in an owner direct insurance program. And when they submit their bid, the bid is going to be the same regardless of whether they're an ODIP or whether they weren't. But then we ask them to identify what their labor hours are, and it becomes a deduct from their bid or a reduction in their bid amount to then pay or offset for this owner direct insurance program. So it's no additional cost to you, the county. It is a benefit, and I'll have Vance explain that to you. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and then after he does his presentation, we'll take some questions from the group. I might have to repair that too.
Thanks, Kurt. Good to see people. Boy, I had a presentation this morning with 180 people, and they were looking at me through their computer, and I was looking at them through my computer, and it's just really nice to see people once again. It's been a long time. As Kurt said, my name's Vance Forrest. I'm wearing the hat of your insurance company, and so I'm going to do a little history lesson. So 30 years ago, this year, 30 years ago, Trempealeau County took the plunge into coming aboard. In 1988, 24 counties were the charter counties, but you were right behind them. And we have now 52 counties that own your own insurance company. Does anyone remember 30 years ago that? Paul would. Remember that interesting time? So in the mid-'80s, the standard markets were really sticking it to the counties. They followed the stock market, and when returns go down in the stock market, they got to actually look at what they're underwriting. And if it's not profitable, they start either non-renew them or jack their premium up a couple $1,000%. That's what was happening to the counties in the mid-'80s. And finally, the counties got together through Mark Rogak and the association, WCA, and said, what can we do? Well, we can take our own hands and our own risk into our own hands and form our own insurance company. Lo and behold, you got the county mutual. And it's apropos to kind of talk about that. And Trempealeau was one of the very early people, and 30 years later, here we are. But this is truly your insurance company. By definition, a mutual insurance company, if you're a policyholder, you're an owner. And my direction comes from elected officials that represent our board of directors. Our board of directors is what guides us. Our board of directors is nothing but elected officials, not nothing but regional elected officials that give us our guidance and run the insurance company on your behalf. And so when we call this an owner direct insurance program, that is an owner direct because it's your insurance company that you're putting to work in another new fashion. So as Kurt said, this deals with the workers' compensation and only that line of coverage. And you're thinking insurance and work comp, and we asked through the bidding process, we asked the contractors to quantify their man hours, and obviously they do that to do a bid of any sort, and then plug that into their work comp premium, and that's how premium is calculated, the man hours times a rate. And you think insurance, well, maybe the mutuals got better rates than the other guys at the contractors. Work comp is kind of the weird insurance. Property insurance, we could have our rate, someone else could have a different rate. So the costs change. Your liability and your motor vehicle and other insurances have different rates. And who's going to charge the county for what? When it comes to workers' compensation, we, insurance companies, the mutual included, have to charge the same thing. So when we ask the contractors to back out their work comp, they're using the same rates that we are. Their insurance company is using the same rates, and their experience modifier is their same that we have to use. So we are really, really talking apples to apples. Obviously, they've got to cover that expense in their one number bid that they're going to give Kurt, and in that one number, it's got to cover all their expenses. One is their work comp costs. So we can quantify their work comp cost using the same rates that we're going to turn around and use when we write a policy, but that money comes out of the front end bid. The county holds that money. The contractors come on board and they get an individual work comp policy from us. The premium is, they're called worksheets. And so they quantify in bid day and submit their worksheets, and we add them all up. And as they come on board, they get a work comp policy from the county mutual specifically for the duration of work that they're doing. So the concrete guys come and the roofers come at all different times. And prior to that, they're getting a policy from us. Now, if their guys get hurt on the project, we do the claims adjusting. It's a work comp program. And we're in Brookfield, Wisconsin, so we're not too far away. And we understand work comp law in the state because that's all we've really ever done. And so, as Kurt said, if for a safe project, the part that comes back, and it's the same amount that was in their bid, that you're now holding to spend as they come on board with your insurance company, since you're putting that money up in your insurance company, if we have a safe project and we didn't spend money on claims, that's the money that comes back to you. It doesn't stay with the contractor that in that number on the front end, we have to cover our work comp costs, and whether they're safe or not safe, that's the number that they're going to live with. You're kind of controlling a little bit of your own destiny. Now, if I do my job, and my job is in risk management, I come up here every week and work with the other safety folks to make the project as safe as possible, there's a nice dividend potential at the end. About half of the premiums is earmarked for dividends or to pay claims. If it doesn't go towards paying claims, it comes back to the county. And so Kurt has been a great partner. Samuels, you guys picked a real winner. We partnered on Green Lake. We partnered on Oconto. We're doing one together in Calumet, so we've got to know each other over the years. In Green Lake and Oconto, really were the first out of the chute that we did this with. And they got some real big, not only big, the big cardboard presentation that we came back 6 months after the project and came to the county board and said, remember when you did the ODIP? Well, here's the good news. And so for a couple $100,000, I'm glad to hold up that check and show it to the county board that you got some money back in. But this really is all about safety, and that's my job. So as Kurt said, there really is no risk. The money is either on the front end of the bid or you keep the money yourself and pay for the contractor's insurance as they come on the project. And if we're safe, the money comes back to you. And so that's kind of in a nutshell. And if I got to meet with the executive committee Thursday, and they asked the greatest questions. And after the questions, I'm driving home and I'm thinking, boy, you know, if I'd have kind of explained it that way from the front end backwards, it probably would have been a little bit shorter meeting. So that's in a nutshell how it works. Glad to partner with Samuels and have an opportunity to work for you and put your insurance company to work again.
So we're not asking you to take action tonight. Tonight was kind of a presentation. What I had told the Exec Finance Committee is that I will get references from other counties so that they can speak to those counties about how it worked, the benefits and the function of that. We won't need to have that in place until we actually get the bid documents ready to go on the street. But there is some front-end work that's required to have it approved through the state. So you'll see it come up over the course of the next couple of months, and then at that point we would like you to make a decision. So if you don't have a question tonight and it happens after you leave tonight and you want to get a hold of me, or if you want to have it presented at the next board meeting, please let us know. So any questions on any of what we presented tonight to the group?
Mr. Chairman. John?
Yes, go ahead.
This would be for Vance. Vance, the other members of the Executive Finance Committee will remember from last week that I'm the person who questioned you very persistently about the ODIP program, and it contributed to lengthening that meeting by a great deal. But I have had a chance to talk to a couple other people who know more about insurance than I do since last Thursday, and I have a better conception of how it works. It was a brand new idea. I have a better conception of how it works. I think one of the reasons that I had such trouble adjusting to it is because, as it was explained to me, it's much insuring for workers' compensation is much different than car insurance or home insurance, and there's a great deal of risk, a great deal of uncertainty. It's really a different ballgame. So, since Thursday, I have come more accepting. In fact, it sounds like it's a really good idea. As you, I think I called you a salesman, but I think I'll buy it at this point. So I just want to let you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I didn't drive home with tears in my eye.
Okay.
I became a salesman all the time. So.
Is there any other comments? Not, thanks, Kurt.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolutions. 6A. 1 is the initial resolution authorizing the borrowing of not to exceed 43.5. I think Brian's here to, you want to?
We're going to read it first,
Okay, yes.
so it gets on the floor. Be it resolved by the County Board of Supervisors of Trempealeau County, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 Wisconsin statutes, general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $43,500,000 for the public purpose of paying the cost of renovating the existing courthouse and constructing and equipping a new justice center adjacent to the existing courthouse that will include a new sheriff's office, jail, courtrooms, administration areas, and all court-related offices to support the judicial functions. Introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, John Austin, George Brandt, Tim Zeglin, Richard Seisha.
I'll second.
Motion from Brandt, seconded by Nutter. You want to go through and explain a little bit to us here, Brian?
Indeed.
And they all got copies of everything
Great.
that you.
Thank you for doing that, Paul. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
I'll try to leave the mask on as much as possible, although whenever you shave, it's always a hassle, so. All right, so a couple things. The resolution was prepared for the county by Quarles and Brady. They have traditionally served as your bond counsel, so that's a specialized group of attorneys that deal specifically in the area of municipal borrowing and tax law. So you have that on your agenda. I've also provided what I would generically call our pre-sale report, which largely spells out some of the material business terms that we would propose to attach to the bond issue. You will notice there's a slightly different dollar amount, and we've originally sized the bonds for, I think as Kurt teed up, a $43 million project fund, and then grossed it up for associated fees and expenses. And understanding that you're also adopting a not to exceed borrowing resolution, that essentially we would have to start over with that resolution if you were to exceed that number. It seems to make some sense typically in those occasions where you gross up even a little further to get to a round number. That's where we arrived at the 43.5 million. So no matter what, you will only borrow what you ostensibly need. We're not going to target a number just to target a number. The resolution itself, again, as a not to exceed amount, we can always go down. If we want to go up, then we have to start the process over and bring back another authorizing resolution in a specific not to exceed amount if we go higher than that number. So the 43.5 million is more out of an abundance of caution. Things come up. If for some reason you felt, obliged to increase project costs, this could accommodate up to that amount. All right. So beyond that, a few things that we've discussed thus far. We've included, I hope you have the attachments. I originally sent you the wrong one, and you got to combine PDFs to do these. So
Two pieces, so one looks like this and one looks like
great. So the final 3 pages are really just to kind of set forth some numbers. We've talked about some of these things in the past. I think importantly, what the levy impact is projected to be. So one of those sheets is an initial sizing and estimated annual debt service, right? So then accompanying that is the impact to the levy in chart form. And then also, too, we've talked about what the impact to the county's borrowing capacity will be. You'll still have more than sufficient capacity. And I think importantly, as you look at the levy chart on there, I wanted to do a couple things with that. I know it gets to be small numbers, so the chart's important from a visual perspective, but also so you can graphically understand the fact that a lot of your debt that you have outstanding right now falls off in a few years. So I know there's been a common question, well, how is this possible to borrow that amount of money without a corresponding tax impact? So as you can see, we've really taken a number of years to kind of plan for this exercise, knowing that this was out there. We made some conscious decisions on how the last few years of debt have been structured to provide a point in time where you could make these sorts of important decisions and take on additional debt load without having a spike in the tax levy. All right, so I wanted to show you both the numbers and in graphical form. And then also, too, I'll point out, there are a few issues that are paid directly from healthcare center revenues. And most importantly, that's a 2015 issue at $27 million. Right now is the bulk of your general obligation debt, but that is not supported by tax levy. That is supported by healthcare center revenues 100%. All right, so were you seeing that debt revenues column, where we're netting from the total amount of general obligation debt service, that's healthcare center revenue coming into the budget to offset what you need to levy for taxes to pay county general obligation debt. All right. Calendar-wise, I'm happy to answer questions throughout here, but calendar-wise, we would look to move forward with the final project cost estimates, I think as Kurt discussed, and generally tend to align with when you start to have bid packages come in for approval so that you essentially have a funded project. Is that required? No. We could follow a different calendar, but this envisions coming to the county board in April with a resolution and a binding proposal for purchase of the bonds that would essentially set the total amount, establish the debt structure, and fix the rates and terms. And you would have something in front of you that you could act on that would be final, and then closing would occur probably in mid-May. All right, so you'd have funds in hand at that point to not only reimburse yourself for your expenditures to date, which have all been preliminary in nature, but as well as your project then going forward. So I'll pause and see if there are questions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions of Brian at this point?
Yes.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ziegman.
Brian, you've already touched on the question that I had alluded to when Kurt was up there, but I'd like to come back to it. I think the skepticism, the question I heard most often during the summertime, or in the 6 or 8 months, maybe 10 months, is how are you really going to do this? How are you going to pull this? This looks like doing this. This has been presented to the population of Trempealeau County. The project has been presented as a debt neutral project, and the answer to that really is in this. The answer to that solution is really in this chart, which nobody in the out there in the county is able to see except us. Can you just go over that again?
Sure.
And maybe I do see there's one possible caveat or representation, and that is just go over it again, and then I'll see what you say.
And I also want to confirm that when the original communications package went out, that the primary chart was a part of that. It was a $40 million project, I think, at that point that was being demonstrated there, and what the tax impact was likely to be based upon estimates. And we had a pretty good cushion over rates at that time, and we've been kind of refining that as we've been getting closer. So at that time, I think we were like a half a point over market rates, and consistently we've dropped that number down to right now we're about 0.2% over where the market's at from what you're seeing there for the all-in interest cost. So if you go back in time, really there was a few things that happened. In the past, some fund balance has been applied to prepaid debt in advance. That was debt that was being levied for. So when you pay off the balance, you no longer have the levy associated with the debt. So some of that debt went away, and then the county's been fairly aggressive in its highway plan, and in light of what had been some borrowing where it was paid off fairly rapidly, so $1 million financings plus that are paid off in large chunks over a number of years, put us in a position to contemplate what's going to happen over the next few years, and then how do we borrow for roads effectively. And I think in the last couple of years what we did was we wrapped around the existing structure, but we got aggressive with the repayment schedule and had that paid off in, say, 4 to 6 years, right? And so one nice thing about accessing the capital markets is that it's not like going to the bank to get a home loan or a car loan where you walk in, you tell them how much you want, they tell you how much your payment's going to be, and it's going to be the same every month, right, for however long until the debt's paid off. In the capital markets, we can structure the debt in a way that makes sense for you as the issuer. So in this case, we know that your existing debt service, which is the bulk of obviously those first the green columns that you're looking at, it decays quickly in terms of being fully amortized and paid down to zero as far as what you're levying taxes for. And as it drops, we can fill in those gaps with new debt. And again, in the capital markets, we can structure the principal in a way that achieves an outcome that either mitigates, diminishes, or eliminates a corresponding increase to the levy, being the source of repayment in this circumstance. And so we've been trying to target more the tax rate than the actual dollar amount, because you can absorb some higher payments as the value of the county as a whole grows. All right, we're not counting on growth for the foreseeable future, but over the last few years, the value of the county has increased. So your tax base has increased, so you're able to absorb some slightly higher annual levy amounts for debt service without a corresponding tax rate increase. All right, so in this case, again, we've got a little cushion over rates, which is reflected here. So you're seeing the tax rate jump up a little bit, a few cents per thousand in this case. But if we were to just sell the bonds today, that number would decline a little because we would be getting market rates versus having the the little bit of conservative estimate in there. So this has really been an exercise that has been a few years in the making and is kind of culminating at this stage with you contemplating a final design, project cost, et cetera. As we shift those numbers around, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but a few $1 million here or there doesn't dramatically change the outcome when you're amortizing debt of 40 million-ish over a roughly 20-year period. It doesn't change things a whole lot. I mean, obviously, we're not getting free money. There is always some interest associated with that. But that's more of a marginal move than a material one in terms of the annual payment requirement. Does that answer your question?
It does for me. I hope it does for everybody else.
Is it sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible? Sorry. Is it possible to? You said some of this information went out in the right. Is it possible to put some of this on our website? So people could. People are more upset about wearing a mask than they are about us spending $43 million. So maybe some of this could be put on our website.
Would you want it on the county website or on the project?
The project website,
Sure. Yeah,
because the project website is so good and so interesting and so clear, and I hope people are paying attention to that and looking at that. So if these two documents could be added to that, just for information for the general public.
It's a public document at this point. Let me recraft the pages that should be landscape but are
Okay.
portrait. It'll
Yeah,
make the
yeah,
numbers
yeah.
bigger.
That would be helpful.
So that was a home computer issue, not anything
Thanks,
else.
because I think if people really want to know, they need to do some research. We've had many meetings, many discussions, so put it out there for everybody to read.
Happy to entertain any other questions. We're not breaking new ground with the size and the structure. I know rates have been up a little bit. It hasn't translated 100% into the municipal borrowing space, which I'm happy to get into if you'd like. It's kind of its own animal, so to speak, in the marketplace. But rates tend to still be good. And again, if we were selling bonds today, we would have priced somewhere just inside of 2% all in. So that's a very positive outcome. We don't have control over that, of course. So we are, just as any other debt issuer, at the whims of the interest rate gods. So I'll be lighting candles and praising totems, keep them in place. But that's the only thing we don't have control over. You have control over the project and the size of it.
Any other, yes?
Okay, I just wanted to inform everyone that we had discussion at the Exec Finance Committee meeting whether we should borrow for the reconstruction of the old building, and everyone recommended that we do that now rather than just build a new building and then come back and take out another loan for remodeling this one. So that was taken into consideration. That's where we bumped it up from the 40 million to the 43.5. So that was discussed, if anybody was concerned about that. We had quite a discussion about that.
Joe, your phone's clicking.
Can you turn it off? So just as an update,
Okay.
that was discussed at Exec Finance. It wasn't just thrown in there automatically.
Is there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Rick Nimitz. Douglas Winters. Sally Miller.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Joe Feltes.
Yes.
George Brandt.
Yes.
Beth Killian.
Yes.
Randy Tollefson.
Yes.
Michelle Haynes.
No.
John Austin.
Yes.
Chuck Wallach.
Yes.
Tim Zeglin.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
Jean Nutter.
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
16 to 1. We needed
Okay.
3/4. Good.
Passed. Additional bond proceeds funds?
Brian, can you just stay for the next one, just for,
What is that anyway? I'm not sure what that is.
okay. Are you ready on that one?
Yes.
Okay. Whereas Trempealeau County bonded for projects in the 2021 budget, and whereas bond funds were received with an additional amount referred to as a bond reoffering premium in the amount of $80,078.80. Whereas these additional bond funds will not require any county matching funds but need to be added to the 2021 county budget. And whereas these additional bond funds will be used to pay bond interest payments for 2021 and 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the 2021 county budget be amended to add $80,078.80 to account 301.58211.999 bond interest and account 301.49110 bond proceeds for future bond interest payments. Introduced by the Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, John Austin, George Brandt, Tim Zeglin, Richard Sasha.
Move to approve is read.
Motion by Mr. Ziegler, seconded by Mr. Sasha. Any questions or comments?
Just in case, I was good.
You got any questions, Brian?
All right. This is a pretty technical matter, so I apologize in advance. So without getting too far into the weeds, there's a convention in the marketplace presently where purchasers of bonds, so when you sell bonds, one party buys them, and then like a car dealer, they distribute them to investors in pieces. So you just sell the whole amount. They underwrite, that's why they're called underwriters. They underwrite the risk of distribution. So you get all your money, and they deal with the back end of selling the bonds. So the convention in the marketplace is to pay the issuer more than face value for their bonds. You don't need to know why. That's just the way it is. And so under Wisconsin law, there's really only one thing you can do with that amount, the net amount in addition to face value, and that's put it in the debt service fund, and you can pay interest on your bonds. Now, when that happens, as your advisor, what we do is we change the structure of the issue so that the net effect is you don't really feel any difference from a budget perspective. The money's there, and it can be used to pay interest. We move principal up in the structure. So, if you counted on a $100,000 payment, and you got $20,000 or $80,000 in the debt service fund, we push up that $80,000 in principal so that you wind up in the same place as where you started. So that part's taken care of. The money that's in the debt service fund that Paul's talking about can only be used for one thing, and that's to pay interest. So this is probably more of you aligning with your budget requirements than it is anything related to the old bonds, because fundamentally you don't have a choice what you do with that money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yeah, and again, this came up at Exec Finance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but what the law does, it is a law, we have no choice. But what the law does is prevents municipalities from borrowing money and making money off of it. Is that about?
That's a different law, but that law does exist.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
federal law, actually, because you sell tax-exempt bonds, so the federal government doesn't want you taking your cheap money, investing it in taxable securities and earning the difference. That's called arbitrage, and you're not supposed to do that. There's exceptions, but anyways, this one is a state law. Every state's a little different in this regard, actually. So, state of Wisconsin says, after paying some fees and expenses, the net amount can only go in the debt service fund for a general obligation issue, so that you have no choice. But what you're talking about is true. It just is
We would never think about doing that, but I'm right.
A lot of times you're exempt from having to care about it. In the case of the $40 million project, you're going to have to think about it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we'll just, the roll.
Tim Zeglin,
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan, Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Rick Nimitz,
Yes.
Douglas Winters, Sally Miller,
Yes.
Richard Sasha, Joe Feltes?
Yes.
George Brandt?
Yes.
Beth Killian?
Yes.
Randy Tollefson?
Yes.
Michelle Haynes?
Yes.
John Austin?
Yes.
Chuck Wallach?
Yes.
17-0.
Item 3, transfer from general fund for increased wages for the county clerk's chief deputy.
Whereas the county clerk has been trying to work with an ever-increasing workload with duties of the chief deputy county clerk. Whereas a continuing increase in the overall responsibility, activity, and workload of the chief deputy county clerk is resulting in the county clerk's office having to perform duties. And whereas the business of administering the county payroll matters have become increasingly complex due to working with the Internal Revenue Services, along with other state and federal programs, laws, and regulations. Whereas the evolution of the county clerk department's responsibilities and obligations to county payroll matters, state and federal programs and regulations have created the need for the continuous development of functions and policies. And whereas many additional duties and responsibilities will require additional time and commitment from the chief deputy county clerk to implement. And whereas in January 2021, the Personnel Bargaining Committee addressed the increase of duties and responsibilities of the chief deputy county clerk that provides Trempealeau County payroll services and approved an administrative adjustment for the position. Now therefore be it resolved that $4,777.34 be taken from the unassigned general fund, account 101.32100, and placed into the 2021 county clerk department budget accounts as follows. 101.51420.111 wages, $4,176. 101.51420.151 Social Security, $258.91. 101.51420.152 Retirement, $281.88. And 101.51420.153 Medicare, $60.55. Introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, John Austin, Tim Zeglin, George Brandt, Richard Seisha. There you go.
Motion approved? Motion by Chuck. Motion, seconded by Ms. Nutter. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Sally Miller,
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Joe Feltes.
Yes.
George Brandt. Beth Killian.
Yes.
Randy Tollefson.
Yes.
Michelle Haynes.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Chuck Wallach.
Yes.
Tim Zeglin.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
Jean Nutter.
Yes.
Kurt Skoyen.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Rick Nimitz.
Yes.
Douglas Winters.
Yes.
17-0.
This next one's from Human Services, permit food purchases.
Whereas the county policy for the current policy for the county is that it does not pay for the cost of any food purchases that staff might consume other than for approved travel unless there is express approval on an annual basis by the governing committee. Whereas there are instances when in the fulfillment of staff duties they may consume food expensed to the county while participating in events with those being served such as recovery court graduations, foster family picnics, advisory committees, or family team meetings. Whereas the purpose of such food purchase is not to solely benefit staff, but is to benefit for those being served where staff may join them. And whereas the amounts have been spent for food and have been approved by the governing committee are within the department's approved budget and are modest, not to exceed $100 for any such event. And whereas the Human Services Board has approved these purchases via motions on an annual basis for compliance purposes, but has requested a resolution to allow such purposes within budget on an ongoing basis. There's one too many withs in there. Now be it resolved to allow payment for purchases of food which is not solely made for the purposes of benefiting staff, but where staff may partake other than staff meals while traveling, when the costs are within the approved annual budget. co-introduced by Human Services Board, Kurt Skorian, Michelle Haynes, Sally Miller, Karen Sepik, Jeannie Nutter, Rick Nimitz, Dorjean Blaha, Diane Schrader. Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, John Austin, George Brandt, Dick Seisha, Tim Zeglin.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Nutter, seconded by Skorian, was it?
Yes.
Okay. This one just roll call, right? Or, you
Well, it's a money thing, so, but Deb's on too.
Jillian has a question.
yeah, anybody have questions of Deb? Deb is
Jillian
on.
has just a general question.
Okay, go ahead.
This is just for the human services, because I believe there are other departments that have situations like this too. Maybe in the future, we could look at something county-wide.
This resolution is for the whole county. It is not just for human services. The request to do this came from the Human Services Board, and Jeannie can fill you in on more of it. But that's why it's from Human Services, but it's for the whole county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Ron Johnson? Yes. Rick Nimitz?
Yes.
Douglas Winters? Sally Miller?
Yes.
Richard Seisha? Joe Feltus?
Yeah.
George Brandt?
Yes.
Beth Killian?
Yes.
Randy Tollefson?
Yes.
Michelle Haynes?
Yes.
John Austin?
Yes.
Chuck Wallach? Tim Zeglin? Whoops. We'll come back to him. Dan Schreiner?
Yes.
Kellen Nelson?
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter?
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan?
Yes.
Must have went to the restroom.
Okay, we'll skip that, then it's 16-0. What?
Come.
Oh. Tim, did you want to vote on this food purchase?
Yes, I already voted on it. Yes.
There we go. It is 17-0 now.
Okay. Education and Extension, Communications, Executive Finance Committee, both transfer of $36,800 from general fund to TV studio for camera system.
Whereas the TV studio department is recording, archiving, and distributing additional coverage and public outreach due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the TV studio equipment and wiring is not designed for nor is conducive to adequately covering public meetings. Whereas TV studio staff have received a request to digitally archive all meetings for a length of time as well as distribute copies of and files as needed. Whereas equipment does not meet these needs and would need to be replaced or expanded. Whereas the TV studio staff would need to spend an unbudgeted amount of $36,800 to purchase this equipment to meet the coverage needs and social distancing requirements. Now be it resolved that the Trumbull County Board of Supervisors hereby approves a transfer of $36,800 from the general fund into account 101.55610.810 for the purchase of this equipment for the TV studio to meet the coverage needs during the COVID-19 pandemic. Introduced by Education, Extension, and Communications Committee, Doug Winters, Richard Seisha, Dan Schreiner, and acted on by Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, Richard Seisha, George Brandt, John Austin, Tim Zeglin.
Motion by
Schreiner?
Dan Schreiner and seconded by Brandt, or by Wallach? Seconded by Wallach. Any additional comments or questions?
There's a man in the corner who may be able to.
Yeah, you want to explain what we're doing here?
And what you want
Yes.
to order, yeah.
The wording, it should be clear by the wording that the attempt is going to be made to recover these funds from, because of the COVID.
That is correct.
The relation to the COVID issues.
Okay.
This will be our second submission, yeah.
So our plan is to replace the cameras that are in this room with pan tilt zoom cameras that'll be mounted in the ceiling. so that we don't have to have camera people in the room moving the cameras. It'll also buy us a network-attached storage with 32 terabytes of hard drive space to digitally archive the meetings. Some meetings I think we need to hold on to for several years, where some are only being asked to hold on to them for a couple of months. And it's taking up an awful lot of hard drive space on our existing storage. We'd also be asking for, in this plan, would also upgrade our slideshow that you see on TV. The one that we have now is starting to die, and we might not be able to get COVID-related information out on that as easily if it dies. And then it would also buy us a disk duplicator. We currently don't have one, so if people need multiple copies of something, it takes a staff person several hours to burn multiple copies. So really the equipment we have that we've been using for meetings is really designed for use in our studio, and we were using it because we were only doing one meeting a month, and now we're doing several. So we need some equipment that can make this easier.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yeah, one more consideration that came out during the during last executive finance committee. All this equipment can be moved, correct?
Yes, very
That's,
easily.
which would be an important consideration since we've just authorized remodeling and new construction. So it can all be moved. We're not going to lose the money if we put it someplace else.
Right.
Any other points want to be made? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Ms. Miller.
since Supervisor Brandt brought it up, I'm just going to go throw this out right now. In the event that any committees are working on, like you put together a resolution, you're spending money, if it is COVID related, please include that in the language. That makes it ever so much easier to get the FEMA reimbursements. Just a paragraph that connects it to COVID and that shows why it was needed, just a simple paragraph, is absolutely important in order to seek reimbursement, especially through FEMA. So yeah, if any of your committees, if this is something that comes up, be sure that the language is included.
Can you figure out a way to do that into this? current one?
It's got it in it. Yeah, it's
Does
got
it?
it in there.
Yeah, this one's sufficient.
We're okay.
Does it have COVID in here? I didn't even know
It
that.
does.
Okay.
First and last.
Oh, I'm on the wrong resolution.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none or seeing none, we'll go with the vote.
Chuck Wallach. Tim Zeglin. Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan. Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Rick Nimitz.
Yes.
Doug Winters. Sally Miller.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Joe Feltus.
Yes.
George Brandt.
Yes.
Beth Killian.
Yes.
Randy Tollefson.
Yes.
Michelle Haynes.
Yes.
John Awesome.
Yes.
17-0.
Personnel bargaining committees, compensation study approval and budget revision.
Whereas Trumpealeau County uses a base compensation administrative guide that is administered by the Human Resources Director with Personnel Bargaining Committee oversight to establish compensation parameters for equitable wages for county employees and to attract and retain qualified employees to Trempealeau County. And whereas the compensation guide is outdated since the last compensation study was conducted 8 years ago, and the county is overdue for a full market analysis of wages. And whereas according to industry standards, a full review of market data for county positions should be conducted at least once every 3 to 5 years. And whereas it is important for the county to provide competitive wages to its employees in order to attract and retain qualified employees in Trempealeau County. And whereas the Human Resources Department has obtained 2 estimates from qualified professionals who could perform the compensation study and recommends Carlson Detman Consulting to perform the study at the cost of $50,000. Whereas the cost of this study was not included in the county's 2021 budget. Now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors approves Carlson Detman Consulting to conduct a compensation study for Trempealeau County positions, and that $50,000 be transferred from the 2021 contingency fund, 101.57900.999, to the 2021 Human Resources Budget account, 101.51430.210, to fund the project. Co-introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, Tim Zeglin, George Brandt, John Austin, Richard Sashaw, and Personnel Bargaining Committee, John Austin, George Brandt, Ron Johnson, Jeannie Nutter. Whoops.
We'll share it.
I got a motion by Nutter, seconded by Johnson.
Well, he can have the motion.
Okay, either way.
Which way do you want it? Johnson, Nutter?
Johnson Nutter.
All right.
Alphabetical.
Okay, sounds good. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Our Human Services Director is waiting outside in the corridor expectantly. I'd like to ask her to come in and explain the reasons for doing the reason for doing it and some rationale for just why are we embarking on this project at this point?
Okay.
There she is.
Good evening.
Hi, Ann.
Yes, this resolution is for the compensation study that is overdue for the county. It's something that typically is recommended every 3 to 5 years, and it's been 8 years since the county has had their last compensation study. So this, and I do believe we may have Patrick Glenn on the line with us as well. He is the consultant from Carlson and Detman. He did give out a presentation to the Exec Finance Committee and the Personnel Bargaining Committee, so he's also available to answer questions as well.
Has joined the meeting.
And I don't know how much detail you're looking for in terms of the project itself, but it's typically about a 6-month project that would take place. The consultant, Patrick Glenn, and his team would be leading that project and initiating those conversations and every stage of that project.
Okay, Patrick, do you want to fill us in what's happening?
He should be there.
Is Patrick, are you online? I see his name there.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
There
Now
you
we
go.
Yeah, I was unmuted on my phone, but not on my computer, so I apologize for that. I guess I would just lead with, are there any specific questions you would like me to answer, or is there, I guess, Amy did a really good job of setting the stage for this, but I want to answer any questions that might exist in the room.
Has anybody got any questions? Mr. Brandt.
Patrick, if you could just, Amy gave a kind of a really good overview. Could you talk a little about some of the specifics, how you'll be engaging with employees, with the county board, with the personnel bargaining committee?
I think, the beginning of any process, there's two things that need to happen at the beginning of a process for this to work. The first one is some level of a conversation with the client, whether it be a committee, a board, a management team. It depends on the organization. It depends on the sector. Trying to get a sense of what problems are we trying to solve, the types of things we need to be aware of in the process, and really also beginning to frame some of those policy type questions that you'll need to answer as we get further into that process and as you prepare yourself for the budget and hopefully an adoption process. So step one is trying to engage the county in those bigger questions. Maybe not necessarily answering all of them, but at least getting those questions put out there. And the second thing that happens, I would say relatively quickly, is the collection of job documentation. And that can occur in any number of forms. The two primary ways of us getting that is either through up-to-date job descriptions, or in the case job descriptions might be out of date, we have a tool called the JDQ, the Job Description Questionnaire, where the employees would then have the ability to put in writing what it is they do and some of the other key elements of the job that we would then take into consideration for evaluation purposes. I think one of the questions that we talked about in front of the the Personnel and Bargaining Committee when we presented to them was that there's a lot of moving pieces with this, of course, but this is the employee's voice in the process. You know, from a quality control standpoint, also from a cost control standpoint, it's really not practical to sit down with every single employee in a project. And in our experiences, when it does occur, that but just people in general tend to miss things. It's usually a fairly short meeting to try to cover a full year's worth of work for an employee. And so this JDQ, if the employee chooses to do it, or also working with the supervisor to update the job description. Again, it doesn't matter what form the job documentation takes, but those are the two front end. And probably the third question is, who do we want to compare ourselves to? Who is that marketplace? And again, some policy level questions that we would try to address at the front end with the board. So as we look at the database that we maintain in the public sector, making certain that we're filling those holes. Certainly, we'll have some of the entities that we want to compare to in our database, but I will guarantee you not all of it, especially since any data older than 24 months, we age out of our system. We want to have as up-to-date as information as possible. So that's kind of how the process starts. I'll fast forward about halfway through the process. We would then come back after we've had a chance to look at all of the job documentation and run it through our job evaluation system. We would meet with every single department head and or key manager in some cases. Some of the larger departments, sometimes more than one person is helpful, to kind of talk about what we see in the job documentation, some of those things that may be unique about your county or the jobs that we're looking at, unique challenges you might be facing as it relates to compensation or those matters directly adjacent to it. And then about 2/3 of the way through the process, as we begin to wind down, is when we would come back to the board for more input on the various elements to complete the project. For example, it's really difficult to ask the board where do they want to be in the marketplace if we can't tell them where they stand. And so that's why, when I say 2/3 of the way through the process, that's an approximation, but there's a lot of the pieces that we need to have in place before that we can show to you and model for you some options before we can kind of, like I said, push that ball downhill and let it start rolling towards a final adoption. So I'd say it might not seem like it was quick, but it's a relatively quick overview of the process in general. But again, happy to answer any questions anybody has this evening.
Any questions from board members at all? Mr. Ziegler.
Yeah, John, it's not really a question, just a comment. When the budget committee sits down to do the budget, the first given is employee wages. So we sit down, we said, here's what the employee wage scale says, and that's fixed. And what I'm hoping this study will accomplish is giving the budget committee a better idea if that's a good number. I mean, what the committee is doing every year is trying to find a balancing point between what this gentleman describes as the marketplace, which is how much you offer employees to work here. I mean, the higher it is, theoretically, the higher wage you offer, theoretically, the better employee you will get. But at what point do you exceed the budget? At what point are we offering so much that the county can't afford it? So there's a real serious decision to be made there about the balancing point. And the further we get away from valid, up-to-date numbers about what each of these positions is worth, the harder it gets to make that decision. And so that's really how I see the wage study benefiting us. Yeah, it's $50-something thousand, but otherwise we're making the decision. Every year we get a little bit further away from some sort of a benchmark, and we have less and less reality when we make that decision. So that's not a question, but just, I guess, bring everybody up to speed on what is this all about.
Agree with that. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll just call for the vote. On the roll.
My mic on first. Michelle Haynes.
Yes.
John Austin,
Yes.
Chuck Wallach. Tim Zegler.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Rick Nimitz,
Yes.
Doug Winters, Sally Miller,
Yes.
Richard Seisha,
Yes.
Joe Feltus,
Yes.
George Brandt. I had my finger in the wrong place. And Beth Killian.
Yes.
Okay, we got 17-0.
Reauthorization of self-insured workman's comp.
Whereas Trumpealeau County is a political subdivision of the state of Wisconsin, and whereas Wisconsin's workers' compensation. What?
The-
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Whereas the Wisconsin Workers' Compensation Act provides that employers covered by the act either insure their liability with workers' compensation insurance carriers authorized to do business in Wisconsin or be exempted, parentheses, self-insured, for insuring liability with a carrier and thereby assuming the responsibility for its own workers' compensation risk and payment. Whereas the state and its political subdivisions may self-insure workers' compensation without a special order from the Department of Workforce Development, DWD, if they agree to report faithfully all compensable injuries and agree to comply with the act and rules of the department. Whereas every 3 years, each self-insured political subdivision must provide the DWD Workers' Compensation Division with a resolution passed by the governing body that states its intent and agreement to self-insure. Whereas the Trempealeau County Personnel Bargaining Committee at its February 18th, 2021 meeting approved the continuation of the self-insured workers' compensation program in compliance with Wisconsin Administrative Code DWD 80.60, parentheses 3. Now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors, 1, provide for the continuation of a self-insured workers' compensation program that is currently in effect. 2, authorize Trempealeau County Clerk to forward certified copies of this resolution to the Workers' Compensation Division, Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. Introduced by Personnel Bargaining Committee, John Austin, George Brandt, Ron Johnson, Jeannie Nutter.
Motion by Brandt, seconded by Nutter.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ms. Cranston is still here, and she can maybe,
She has to.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello again. So this workers' compensation reauthorization, this is the same resolution that came before this board 2018, so it's almost identical to what was passed previously. The county has been self-insured for the workers' compensation since 2010, and so this is just one piece that is required for that process that will come before this body every 3 years. There's a whole other packet of information that will also be sent to the state per their request that coincides with this resolution. Our claims information, our policy. So this is, again, just one piece of it that goes before the state's request for this information. If you're interested in knowing more about that information, I'm happy to talk. I'll go ahead and take any questions that you have.
Do you have any idea how much this has saved us since 2010?
Lots.
I mean, this is basically what we were talking about earlier, the ODIP. We're paying our own, getting our own dividend constantly because we're monitoring our own. So it's a great program.
And I don't have those specific numbers on what that it is, but I mean, as what was explained earlier, workers' compensation is driven by your payroll. There's a premium that's established based on the county's payroll. And this also includes the healthcare center as well. So for our total combined employees with the healthcare center and the courthouse, we've got 594 employees. And so this covers all of those employees. Our claims history has typically been lower than what's anticipated for our county, so we've got a really good claims history going, at least in the last few years that I'm aware of. And so we've been typically lower than what's anticipated. So we've got a pretty good track record. I know personal bargaining hears these meetings once a year through the company. And we could certainly set something up before this board if you're interested in a presentation from that entity.
I just thought it might be interesting to see how much money we've saved over the
Yeah.
12-year period. Okay, anyway, ready for the vote? Call the roll.
Ron Johnson?
Yes.
Rick Nimitz?
Yes.
Doug Winters?
Yes.
Sally Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sasha?
Yes.
Joe Feltus?
Yes.
George Brandt?
Yes.
Beth Killian?
Yes.
Randy Tollefson?
Yes.
Michelle Haynes?
Yes.
John Austin?
Yes.
Chuck Wallach?
Yes.
Tim Zegelin?
Yes.
Dan Schreiner?
Yes.
Kellen Nelson?
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter?
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan?
Yes.
17-0.
Okay, good. Merger of the Wic programs in Trempealeau and Buffalo counties. Is Barb still here? Yes, she is.
Oh, and Kayla too. Whereas the state of Wisconsin is strongly encouraging counties to form regional consortiums to administer the Women, Infant, and Children, WIC, programs as a way to reduce administrative time spent managing the program and to allow maximum resources to be used for program benefits and outreach. And whereas the WIC programs in Trempealeau and Buffalo counties have been sharing staff and program responsibilities for the last 2 years through memorandums of understandings, MOUs, billing each other for staff time. Recently, Buffalo County has lost their program dietitian/nutritionist, and the responsibilities are now being covered by Trempealeau County staff through previous MOU. Administration requirements are being executed separately for each county, doubling the administration time required for a merged county program. And whereas merging the two WIC programs will save time and expenses for invoicing/payments, as Trumbull County will be the financial manager of the two programs, and their related grants and all program staff will be employed by Trumbull County. Whereas Buffalo County Department of Health and Human Services voted on December 1, 2020 to support the merger and have verbally agreed to the roles and responsibilities shown in the merger MOU. And whereas the merger of the two programs will increase administrative efficiency and increase resources for client counseling, services, and community outreach. And whereas WIC participation has been declining and the grant funding is allocated based on the number of clients served by the program, and the merger will increase the number of clients and increase time allotment for recruitment of new clients. Whereas Trumbull County will be recognized as a regional leader in the WIC program, and whereas no additional county levy is required at this time. If levy is required due to a shortfall of grant funds in the future, the cost will be shared by both counties in proportion to the home county of the WIC recipients. Now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County WIC program will merge with Buffalo County WIC program as shown in the MOU for the merger. Trempealeau County will be the administrator for the combined program. Introduced by the Board of Health, Beth Killian, Rick Nimitz, Dr. Kim Breedenbach, Sally Miller, Joe Feltus, Ron Johnson, Bill Bexa, and Personnel Bargaining Committee, George Brandt, Ron Johnson, Jeannie Nutter, John Austin.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, seconded by Feltus. Any discussion?
I do have a question, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. Is
Mr.
Kayla,
Ziegler.
Kayla's here.
Ms. Bear, would you care to come up here? Barb here?
Oh, yeah.
Barb, I've got a question for you. I was on the Health Committee 6 or 7 years ago when exactly the same merger was discussed and discarded. And I was listening to the names of the committee members. I think the only person on the present committee who was on that committee at that time is Bill Baxa. That's the dentist. Is there any reason why it's a good idea now and it was not a good idea 6 or 7 years ago? Can you tell us?
The situation has changed. The situation has changed. Time moves on, and the priorities of the state in terms of encouraging individual small programs to join to create less paperwork, more efficiency at the state level. At that time, I believe there was a penalty for that the programs would end up losing money if they joined. So the situation is very different now than it was then.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Sal.
actually on the Board of Health at the time that this came up years ago. And it was a different situation then. There were different things that were coming down from the state. Our health department was in a different place. We had different things happening, I think, different processes. And so we did in December, I believe it was, January, the board did actually move this. We wanted to wait on it and do some more research. I wanted to go back and refer to the notes from previously when we had discussed this a few years back. And it was a different situation. And I felt comfortable enough that I did vote for the merger. Asked a lot of tough questions of their representative from the state was at the meeting, as well as somebody from the Buffalo County Board of, I think it was, help me out here, Barb, was it their Health and Human Services Director?
Yes.
Yes. And so, yes, I did ask questions of them at the time and everything, and felt confident that this was a different situation. This was a better deal. Asked for some language to be clarified. We looked at it like last month, I believe it was. And then, yes, when they brought it back, I was comfortable with what it was as compared to what it was even just a few months ago, and certainly more comfortable than what it was several years ago when it was brought forward.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd like to hear from you must be the director of the
Sure.
program.
Yep,
Okay.
so my name is Kayla Bear. I'm the Public Health Nutrition Coordinator for the Health Department, so I direct the Wic Program locally. So I just wanted to first provide a little bit more background on the Wic Program, just because a lot of you probably don't deal with it. It's primarily for pregnant women, infants, and children. So the WIC program does provide food supplements, as Barb mentioned earlier, but we also provide nutrition education, breastfeeding promotion and support, and referrals to other community services. So we're really connecting people with the community to help them get on their feet. The WIC program provides a lot of benefits. Just a couple benefits that we can see to relate to the health of our community is that it reduces fetal deaths and infant mortality. It reduces low birth weight rates and increases the duration of pregnancies. So the longer that women are able to carry their babies to term, the healthier the pregnancy, the healthier the baby. And it improves the growth of nutritionally at-risk infants and children. I could go on and on about the benefits of the program, but those are just a few. So I wanted to provide a little background on what we've been doing with Buffalo County. So as the resolution mentioned, over the past 2 years, we've been partnering with them. So we've been providing these breastfeeding, nutrition, and administration services back and forth, and doing a lot of billing back and forth as well to make sure that we're being appropriately paid for what's happening in each county. So this merge is the next step in this process. We could continue, billing back and forth, but that does take a lot of administrative time and burden. And as I was explaining to George the other day, I was in clinic and I was bouncing back and forth between Buffalo County and Trempealeau County. I had to log in and out within, 10 times within 1 hour. So it's a lot going back and forth. So this will really help to streamline that process. We've been having decreased participation due to decreased birth rates. So with decreased participation comes a decrease in our funding that we receive from the state. But we still have the same administrative burden. And that's where this merge is really starting to take place, and why the state is really encouraging us to move forward with this. We can easily be more efficient if we're doing some of the reporting, the outreach, building relationships in the community at a multi-county level rather than single county. So this will help just to increase our funding. We would take their 193 participants and the funding along with that. That would become Trempealeau County funding to provide the WIC service to Buffalo and Trempealeau County. We would also be able to provide an additional site to our residents in the northern region. So they do have a clinic site in Mondovi right now that goes twice a month. Right now, it's very difficult for participants to switch back and forth from one county to the other. If we're merged, that would be no problem. If they preferred Mondovi 1 month, Osseo in 3 months, that's totally fine. We would also be able to regionalize our vendor relationships. So the WIC shopping experience can be really challenging at times. And so by regionalizing our relationships with the grocery store vendors, that's really going to help improve the WIC shopping experience and increase our participant retention, therefore increasing funding again. I think one of the major advantages is really having more clinic coverage and less staff burnout, more time to cover for sick leave, vacations, maternity leave. Right now, if we weren't partnered with Buffalo County, I'm the only dietitian. That gets to be a lot when it's just me. I don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of. If I feel ill one day, I have to cancel the entire clinic. So that gets to be a lot. So this would really help to retain staff for the long run, help us to be more well-trained, provide better services to the county. We'll also be a leader in the state by merging right now. There's not many other WIC programs who have taken this step yet, so we would be leading the way in moving forward with a regionalization of WIC services. So I know you probably all want a little more details about the finances, so I have a little breakdown I can provide for you as well. So the estimated grant allocation, so this is the state WIC grant, so this is no tax levy, for Trempealeau County alone would be $159,105 for 2021. The estimated grant allocation for 2021 of a merged project, so Trempealeau and Buffalo County, would be $216,390, so it's an increase of $57,285. With an estimated budget, so putting together staff time, along with all clinic operations, that would include a WIC director, a project nutritionist, a public health technician, and like I said, all the operations. The estimated budget, so how much we would need to spend, would be $169,543, so well under that grant allocation. No need for tax levy, plus room to grow as a program as well. And as stated in the resolution, this is the MOU language that we have specifically regarding if we ever were to exceed that grant allocation. Trempealeau County assumes all financial responsibility for providing WIC services to Buffalo County residents using the funds received through the state WIC grant. At the end of the fiscal year, if the WIC grant allocation does not cover all expenses and tax levy is necessary, the deficit will be shared between the two counties based on the participant count ratio per county. Participation will be broken down monthly by county and then averaged to determine the split of the expenses not covered by the WIC grant allocation. This would need to be approved by each county board of supervisors, of course. And the MOU has been approved by RIC. It's been approved by Buffalo County Corp Council. Buffalo County Health Board as well has verbally approved. They wanted to wait for our approval before going through with their final approval, and then our Board of Health approved it last week. So that's the summary of this project. Do you have any questions for me? Yep.
Do you foresee the consortium growing rather than just two counties, like maybe Buffalo or Pepin County in the future? Some of the smaller counties in the western region coming together, because I know the state is very interested in consortium building.
So Pepin and Pierce County are currently merged. Okay. So I'm not sure if we would merge all four of those together. But I mean, I do have a very good relationship with the Pepin-Pierce County WIC program at the moment. Another consideration would be Jackson County.
Okay, but I mean, do you think that's something in the future? Or
possible.
Okay.
You know, you can't say it's not possible, you can't say it's probable.
I think the state would like to see it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because it's been a great thing for economic support, how the consortiums have grown and really prospered. And it's really good for clients as well, so, good job, thank you.
On the subject of the clients, this will allow more time and budget for outreaches.
Right.
And I think we have a lot of clients out in our county that aren't aware of the possibilities in terms of services, and therefore they will get, you know, improved nutrition by doing more outreach,
Yep.
reaching more. Not only that, but you know, it will grow the budget a little bit.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments? This we could actually do with a voice vote because there's no money involved. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, it's carried.
Killian has a comment.
Pardon?
Killian has a comment.
Go ahead.
Yes.
On my resolution, there's an X in the no column under my name. So I don't know if that's the original one or not.
Oh,
I didn't understand what
there's
you
an
said.
error. There's an X under her name or something in there.
We put an X when somebody appears virtually, right?
When somebody is virtual and they vote on a resolution, they aren't present to sign the resolution, so we have a way that we say an X means that you did vote virtually. So that's why there's an X there. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, but it's an X in the no column.
I don't have any X in the no column.
Neither do I.
No, I don't have any X in the no column.
I think we
Okay,
got that fixed.
Yeah.
I got email,
Oh.
there's an X in the no.
I think the health department had an old template that we had to update the
template.
So you maybe got a copy before we got it all fixed.
Paul, the one
Okay,
on the one on the web has an
I
X.
just don't want it to
in
be
her
shown
box.
that I voted no.
It looks like she's voting no. There's an X there.
Okay, I will make sure.
That's the draft version, right?
We'll
That's
get
the
it
one
cor-
that- that's
we'll get it
company's
corrected.
We'll get it fixed, yep.
Thank you.
Thank Beth.
We have the original.
Item 7. We have,
Thank you,
oh,
guys.
item F.
We got
Audit
one
committee,
more.
membership claims.
Okay, whereas the audit committee has audited the following claims and recommend that they be allowed as follows. John Austin, $600.40. George Brandt, $257.12. Joe Feltus, $69.04. Michelle Haynes, $100. Ron Johnson, $71.28. Beth Killian, $50. Sally Miller, $50. Rick Nimitz, $254.16. Jeannie Nutter, $181.36. Richard Seisha, $416.48. Dan Schreiner, $150. Kurt Skoyan, $305.44. Randy Tullifson, $138.08. Chuck Wallach, $0. Douglas Winters, $217.20. Tim Zeglin, $235.84. Total per diems, $2,500. Total expenses, $596.40. Grand total, $3,096.40. Now, be it resolved that the claims be allowed as shown. Introduced by Audit Committee, John Austin, Randy Tullifson, George Brandt.
Move to approve.
Motion by Stacia, seconded by Brandt. We'll call the roll.
Sure. John Austin,
Yes.
Chuck Wallach, Tim Zeglin,
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
even though you're not getting paid. You will get paid for tonight, though. Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Kurt Skoyan,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Rick Nimitz, Douglas Winters,
Yes.
Sally Miller,
Change our form.
Yes.
Richard Seisha. Joe Feltus. George Brandt. Beth Killian.
Yes.
Randy Tollefson. Michelle Haynes.
Yes.
17-0.
Passes. Item 7, election of a member to the Highway Committee to replace Michael Nelson. Looking for nominations for Highway Committee. You would like to put in Kellen Nelson? Kellen Nelson's been nominated.
Mr. Chair, I nominate Jeannie Nutter.
Mr. Brandt nominates Jeannie Nutter. Any other nomination?
I nominate Dan Schreiner.
Dan Schreiner's been nominated. Have you got these in your computer? Are you gonna have a bell?
I will.
You have 3. Any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any nominations are closed with, was it 3 candidates?
Yep. Come on.
Oh, we're gonna need a teller?
We're gonna need 2 of them.
2 tellers? Mr. Johnson volunteers for 1. How about Mr. Seisha for a second?
There you go. I'm still gonna get 1 more in here.
If you're voting virtually, can they just call you?
Does he have his phone with?
Do you have,
Do you?
yeah,
Okay.
if you have,
Do they know how,
do you have Rick, do you have Corp Council's telephone number, cell phone number?
Do we just text him?
text?
You can text it, that'd be great.
I do not have his number. I need a paper to write it down.
Let me know when you're ready.
Is your volume up?
Hope so. Releasing my phone number to the
Michelle,
world.
do you know how to,
I just
I was
thought,
just,
do you know how to
just
get hold of Rick?
let me email it to her, Rick.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Beth, I might even have your number in my phone.
Michelle, do you have Rick's info?
No, I would like it.
Why don't you email it?
Sally, can you email both Michelle and Beth?
Well, I just texted
Yes,
Beth.
I
I
can
have her
do that.
number.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I have Michelle Haynes.
I'll give to you and then give half to him and he can pass them on. Don't forget Mr.
Do we need,
You'll know when you give them out.
I'll take 3 of them from you.
I believe I just sent mine to Rick.
I gotta run.
yeah,
I got it. Thank you, Beth.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
you have to sign?
Yeah, yes, you do have to sign. On highway, you have
I
to
need,
sign.
I need 3 of them for the people that are sending me their votes.
Yes.
So, did I take you all? Did I take all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. We're supposed to vote to see.
Ron,
We might need some more, yeah.
yeah, I could take a couple more here.
no, I only printed 14, so I gotta get 17 for everybody. 'Cause Rick took 3.
Keep one for myself.
Yeah.
How many are we supposed to vote for? 1 or 2?
Vote for 1.
Okay.
The names are Kellen Nelson, Jeannie Nutter, and, D.S. I can't spell. Dan Schreiner.
I thought he was a,
DSN, did you see that?
I thought he was a doctor of science or something.
I gotta fix that. That doesn't look right. There. If we have to go again.
Did you get mine?
Huh? I got the tally sheet.
So how many,
Those 2.
They have to have
Still waiting
9.
for 1 more yet.
let's have 9 to win?
Here you go.
Okay,
Rick, did you get mine?
I did. I just sent you a reply text.
Okay, do you wanna go in the kitchen? Okay, here, take this. This is your tally sheet.
Okay.
You got a pen?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Did you get Michelle?
Yep, I got yours, Michelle. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's see, correspondence, none, I don't have any.
I have none.
So now we're just in limbo till we get the results of the election. Right.
We are already hit it, and we got 1 month to go.
One
If
comment I
anybody
would,
wants to talk about that,
one comment I would make while we're all here is this was gonna be the year that we could possibly redistrict. But due to the fact that the census is not going to be done in time, these districts will stay the same at least until the 2024 election.
it all depends on when we get it, because we're supposed to have it after July 31st.
Yeah, so,
When, did you just get, who?
Yeah, I heard that from Jeff Smith. And,
Oh,
Um,
well then, forget it.
yeah,
we
so it
never
wouldn't
have
be
it in
till
time.
September.
There's no
Because
way
you
we'll
gotta
get it.
have it before November,
The
or
census.
December 1st nomination papers this year.
I think it was on the Wisconsin Counties Association, an email from them too, that it wasn't gonna be till September. Well, I don't understand the backlog, but
I don't either. December this year is when the county board will be taking out nomination papers for next year's April election. Whatever the first Tuesday
the
in
first
January
Tuesday in
is
January.
in 2022.
Oh, God, I turn off.
So, yeah, that'd be pretty short. Because you gotta have it all together so that the state has it all together, so that they can do not only the
first Tuesday or second Tuesday?
first Tuesday,
Fourth.
4th.
That's a 3 in the
Oh,
middle there.
okay.
Yeah.
We gotta do it again. Hang on, I'll start printing them out right now. We have Kellen Nelson, 7, Jeannie Nutter, 3, Dan Schreiner, 7. Have to have 9 to win.
And all 3 names stay on?
All 3 names stay on. And you wanna grab those, I'm gonna take them and put them with this. There wasn't anybody that didn't sign, was there? Well, it wouldn't have mattered anyway, we didn't have enough, so.
You got enough,
I guess we didn't check to make sure everyone
14, you
Well, they all
got 17.
You got 17
You got
votes here.
17
so-
votes.
We did have 17 votes.
Yes, yeah. 7, 3, and 7. I'm gonna take one of them. Because you guys should have 18. And I'll just,
Oh, come on.
I know, I
There
have the
we
same
go.
thing. And I'll write tally on the
Oops.
top of this. Whoops.
I got a blank. I don't know what that's gonna
It might have just stuck. We'll check.
Oh.
You pass them out. If somebody's missing one, I'll print one more.
be. Were they all signed?
Everybody signed it.
Okay.
For those online, you can text me or vote again.
This is number 1. Hopefully it was just electricity that hung on to one. If you're short one, let me know. Did you get any yet? Oh, he needs 3 up here.
How many you have?
Hey, he needs 3 up here.
For those online, I got all
I
your
gotta
votes.
have-
Thank you.
What do we need now?
I need
Clerk
3
Count-
ballots
Clerk
up
Count
here.
needs 3 for the,
And there's the 3rd one right there.
have you got 3 there?
I'm trying to think what I missed. Yeah, no, we're good. Thank you.
I don't think I can write today. Is there an E in tally?
If nobody changed their vote, it should end up the same again.
Well, hard to say, hard to say. Yeah. Come this way. I wrote tally on the top.
There we go.
Got it? Oops. Okay.
At least we don't have all them cords to trip over anymore.
What chords?
There's no cords to trip over, just a,
Is it, well, that way still kind of a,
yeah.
what's the cord back there? Oh, from, to that camera. Yep.
Eventually you won't have cords for that either? Holy Mars.
No, because they'll
That'd
be
be
from.
great.
So
Well,
how soon are you gonna
our
order?
workman's comp will just save money right off the bat.
Well, the money isn't transferred yet, but tomorrow probably? Yeah. Okay.
I thought
Did
these,
you write down the
I thought these
737?
phones or
Okay.
these speakers would actually have a way to blow it.
They do.
They do?
But we're not using it.
But,
Don't say yet. We're not using it.
It's in here, in the voting,
oh, okay,
but we're not using it.
okay.
So, did anybody have questions on the general fund or the sales tax? Are we closer?
There's the tally.
Kellen Nelson, 9, Jeannie Nutter, 2, Dan Schreiner, 6. So we got Kellen.
All right. Congratulations, Kellen.
Okay.
That's it. Oh, you have the general fund updates and stuff?
Yep, I just asked if anybody had questions.
Any questions on them? Nothing else? Make a motion, somebody will make a motion that clerk pay mileage and per diem? Motion by
Kurt?
William, seconded by Pollock. I'll call the roll.
It's per diem. Doug Winters. Sally Miller.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Joe Feltus.
Yes.
George Brandt.
Yes.
Beth Killian.
Yes.
Randy Tollefson.
Yes.
Michelle Haynes.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Chuck Wallach.
Yes.
Tim Zeglin.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Kurt Skoyen.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Rick Nimitz.
Yes.
17-0. Okay.
Carried. Item 11, favorite item, adjourn at 9:13
Till.
till